Welcome, everyone. My name is Louis Davila. I'm a senior solution architect at Circle K and part of our global technology team. And first of all, I want to begin by thanking Techqueria for giving me the opportunity to be here with you and share about the work that we've done at Circle K around AI. Also, thank you for your time and interest in this session. And I'm genuinely tickled that you're here for Beyond the Buzzword, a case study in real world AI for global content. Uh, and I want to take you beyond the AI hype. So, we're going to be diving into a real world case study about how we used AI to solve a bit of a complex problem, a global business problem against a very hard deadline, and delivered some massive value and measurable results. So, this story is basically about moving from a capability gap, something that we didn't have, to a competitive advantage. Oh, and please feel free to use the chat to ask questions. I'll progress through the session, and at the very end, I'll scroll through the chat and review if there's any questions. I'll leave about 10 minutes at the end to have a conversation with you all about the session and any questions that may arise. So the driving factor for this project was a very hard deadline that could not be moved. And that deadline was the European Accessibility Act, which came into full force in June of this year. So we had a legal and ethical mandate to become fully accessible on web and mobile in 8 different countries. And we were starting from scratch. We had no existing process for image accessibility whatsoever. So again, we were starting from the ground floor. And it wasn't a simple task. We had to solve for massive scale across thousands of image assets, 6,000 generated every month, for example. We had to handle multiple languages for all of our European markets, 8 markets in total. And soon we discovered that navigating a complex web of legal warnings for different kinds of products changed from country to country. So the risk was very, very large, and the timeline was like not negotiable. So very, very hard challenge to solve. So with this difficult challenge, how did we get our leadership to invest in what we wanted to create? Well, we didn't just present the problem to them. We built a clear and data-driven business case for it. We started by quantifying the risk of doing nothing, of which there were potential significant fines under the European Accessibility Act. But more importantly, the damage to a brand's reputation for not being inclusive was even greater and more important. So we ran a cost benefit analysis. We projected some high recurring cost given various teams, additional workload to do a manual solution of making the images accessible. For example, generating all text for those images versus investing in building an automated solution. And from day one, the return on that investment was clear, especially when you considered how the volume of our assets compounded over time. Again, we were creating 6,000 assets a month for 8 different countries with 8 different legal requirements. And so we crucially framed this as a strategic investment. We didn't want to just avoid fines. It was a way to also create a more efficient global content pipeline. It would make delivery better. It would make it more inclusive for experiences for all our customers. And that's what got us the green light to move forward with the project. So, with the buy in secured, we focused to strategy. How are we going to build this? We knew that throwing technology at the problem all on its own wouldn't work. We had to do more. And so our approach was to take a human centered approach from the beginning. We started by mapping our entire content pipeline, meaning when an order for a new image asset comes in, then when it gets built, then when it gets uploaded and disseminated and distributed, either to print or to a digital property. We mapped all of that out, trying to find the best single place where a human needed to be involved. And so the point where people had the most context, we discovered was the best place for that human centered interaction to take place. So the goal here really wasn't to replace people using automation or AI, but it was to augment them. That was our guiding philosophy. And a little more specifically, what we did is we used Gen AI to do all of the heavy lifting for generating the localized alt text across 8 different countries, so 8 different languages. But also, the final critical approval was given to our local market experts. So we have people requesting imagery in Latvia, in France, in Germany. So they understand the alt text in their local language. So they truly understood what it should read like. They understand the cultural implications, the context of their audience. So we wanted to empower them to make the final decision and approval on the automated alt text that got generated by the Gen AI tool. So again, this is part of our philosophy of putting the human in the appropriate place. So with this human-centered approach, we required the right technology to power it. Again, a little bit more specifically, our core technology was a context-aware large language model, an LLM, which we integrated directly with our digital asset management tool, a DAM, using APIs. So this allowed us to seamlessly automate processing of bulk images as they got uploaded. So as images got uploaded into our DAM, our digital asset management system, we ran them through the large language model to understand what the image was, what the context was, and apply the language specific alt text. And again, we did this for thousands and thousands of images a month, on average about 6,000. But the real magic wasn't just the integration to a large language model via API, it was actually in the prompt engineering. And so a simple prompt, like you would use in ChatGPT, where it might be something like describe this image, that's not enough for a global enterprise. Again, across 8 different countries, 8 different languages, we needed more. And more specifically, different products require different warnings. For example, tobacco, those require their own warnings. Alcohol have their own warnings. And even in certain countries, energy drinks require warnings because of the high caffeine level and other ingredients that they have. So these requirements, again, varied from country to country and from product to product. So there's a lot of complexity there. And so we developed a multi step prompt chain to ensure accuracy and compliance. So, more specifically, the first prompt in the workflow that does the factual description of the image. Like what's physically in the image? Is it a Coca-Cola bottle? Is it a candy bar? Is it on a red background or sitting on top of a table? Something like that. The second prompt we asked it to interpret the context and provide a brand voice to kind of set the mood or the purpose of the image. Is the image of a Coke bottle a reward that you accrued by being a frequent purchaser? Or was it a candy bar that's part of a, some sort of scene, maybe of a park setting sort of like a playful mood. So that was the second prompt. And in the final step of the third prompt, that was the compliance check. That's where we had the LLM try to understand if this was a tobacco product, alcohol, energy drink, or whatnot. And then we use conditional logic to scan for the language that it need to be in, again, the product that this was, and using that information, it was able to generate the appropriate legal requirement for the descriptive text. Uh, these kinds of texts are different based on jurisdiction. So, as a made up example, France might require a lot of language and terminology for tobacco and alcohol, while Poland maybe not so much, but inversely requires a lot of warning for an energy drink. And so, in that third prompt, we were able to have a very robust prompt to be able to do that sort of validation and checking. So with this layered approach, we were able to deliver not only high accuracy in terms of what the product was, what the context of it is, and give it a mood and brand voice, but then also finally the high accuracy in terms of like the legal requirement. So with this strategy and technology in place, the results were very transformative. We initially did some benchmarking of using a third-party accessibility expert against some manual generation of alt text. And so with that baseline, we were able to then compare it against the AI driven solution. And we found that the AI workflow was 45 times more accurate in its compliance and quality. Our manual tests had different teams create the alt text. And so we discovered that because they weren't experts, there was a lot of inconsistency. It was also slow compared to an automated way. It would take a couple minutes, sometimes 3 to 4 minutes, for a person to try to understand the image, describe its mood, and then understand what kind of legal warning had to be in place for the jurisdiction. AI, on the other hand, was fast and consistent. It could do it in seconds versus anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 minutes. And then on the financial front, this represented about 84% reduction in cost over the manual process. So that is huge in terms of the amount of financial effort it takes to generate compliance of these images for accessibility. The time per asset was several minutes again, versus even someone that was an expert in accessibility. We had our expert, our third-party expert, do the alt text generation, and they it took them maybe a minute or two. And again, versus the AI automation, this was done in seconds. So overall, this wasn't just a one-time win. As our assets or the volume of our assets grows, we see additional savings and efficiencies compound, making this investment in this automated content engine even more scalable for the future. And also importantly, we didn't saddle our teams with more work. Uh, they are good and great at doing the things that they're supposed to do. And so by not saddling them with this additional work that they're not experts in, we allowed them to focus on their expertise. And we took a job that was, not in the wheelhouse of our team, and we just automated it, and it was a win in that regard as well. And so while these numbers are fantastic from a final outcome perspective, the journey in this project wasn't a straight line. Most projects don't go perfectly, and so what I want to share are some real lessons that we learned, because those are also important. one of our biggest surprises was, first of all, the complexity, and that it was hidden. And sometimes that's you discover that. We didn't know that there were so many different legal requirements. We had the understanding of what those requirements are here in the US. Here in the US, we have tobacco warnings, but we don't necessarily have alcohol warnings or even uh, energy drink warnings. So we discovered this using AI because it initially would generate warnings for these other products as it kind of knew about them because of the way it had been trained, but we had no idea why. And so once we dug into it, we realized that it had unveiled some complexity there that we had no idea was there. So for me, this is a powerful, very, very powerful realization in that AI can be a discovery tool as well. um, in those initial errors, like generating those different warnings, those were invaluable because again, they acted like as a magnifying glass, revealing these inconsistencies in our own understanding of what needed to be done. And it forced us to go to our legal team to get clarification about, you know, do we need these warnings in alt text or do we not need them? How long should they be? Should they be the full warning, or can they be summations of the warning? And so now I'm glad to say I'm an expert in alcohol, tobacco, and sport drink warnings across Europe. So that's something that I never thought that I would ever, become an expert. And then the final lesson out of this project is that we invested heavily in tuning. And the reason our teams embraced this tool was ultimately because it generated highly accurate alt text that was compliant, and it did it from day one. And that trust wasn't given, it was earned by the dozens and dozens of hours of testing and refining the prompts before we ever launched. And so we didn't want to replace one kind of work, which was the manual alt text generation, with another kind of work, which is reviewing the output of the AI. And so don't underestimate this step. So finally, what else can you take away from this? First of all, always lead with strategy. Analyze your processes deeply before you even write a line of code. Having good requirements is important. Um, Automation will have a big impact only if you know really, really well what it should be doing and what it needs to do. Second, design for human AI collaboration. The most powerful systems use AI to handle the boilerplate, to scale, and empower people to provide that final layer of critical context and judgment, the stuff that AI can't do. And finally, measure everything before and after. Benchmarking your processes before and after allows you to prove the return on that investment with undeniable data, which is key in getting buy-in for future projects. Okay. So thank you for your time. I hope that the case study was a valuable look into how we can move from beyond a buzzword to deliver real-world results with AI. Um, I'm happy to answer any questions. So what I'll do is I'll scroll through the chat and see if any came up, and then we can spend the next few minutes covering questions. Let's see. All right. Thomas asks, I'm in the process control automation tech space and AI being implemented into